So yeah, this right here is extra special. This is 1983 Dial a Freak by Uncle Jam's Army, Egyptian Lover. And my memory of this era, 1983-84, especially with this song. And the reason why I bring this up is because early LA hip hop, was, even though I was a kid, I was hearing about Uncle Jam's Army as like, the parties and stuff and the stories. And I was just a kid in Buena Park. They had such an impact in the early to mid 80s that I was even hearing about it. Yeah, they were on radio, they were on K-Day, but for me, there was that big influence from the music part of it, where it wasn't just breaking and popping. Even though people were breaking and popping to Egyptian Lover music, there was also what I really got into, which was more of like just partying, just dancing. You know what I'm saying? And just going out and dancing. And this right here is actually a copy of Dial a Freak that I used to have to sneak listen to at home because it was kind of naughty, because it had girls moaning and stuff. So I'd have to sneak listen to it the same way I used to have to sneak listen to Richard Pryor albums and stuff, like and Eddie Murphy, Delirious and all that, where we, and like, because I grew up in a Catholic household, right? So the 80s, all this was like, whoa, especially this song. But anyhow, this one right here is special because this is a hand-drawn cover by the Egyptian Lover himself, autographed. And this is one of the first songs right here, Dial a Freak, Freak Beat Records, 1983, that had an impact even to this day. And then most people will know Egyptian Lover from the 1984 hit Egypt, Egypt. And this is the one you're referring to, right? Now this copy right here is actually the 40th anniversary issue of Egypt, Egypt, the re-release. And this one's extra special because this was hand-delivered as a gift from the Egyptian Lover here, where we are, him walking through these doors with AJ from Uncle Jam's Army back in August, stopped by and gave me this gold copy of Egypt, Egypt. So this one's extra special. And this song, this era, the ripple effect of influence 40 years later, this came out in 1984. He's still performing this song, and people are still popping to it. People are still breaking to it. People are still partying to it, dancing to it, loving the 808 beats, the original 808 beats that he plays. Really impactful, really influential, so I wanted to mention him. Got his shirt on right here, because if you're from LA, the Egyptian Lover was the first to do it. Okay, so acknowledgement to him, because I always like to acknowledge the people that came first.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And with that being said, 1984 in Madera, California, everybody, all the mainly the popping crews, everybody was breaking to I Need a Freak. Is that I Need a Freak?
There was the original I Need a Freak from Sexual Harassment, and then there was the Egyptian Lover one.
Okay.
So around that time, it was mostly Egypt, Egypt, or My Beat Goes Boom came out, I think, in 85. There was a flip side to Dial a Freak, which was Yes, Yes, Yes. That was big too.
The other main one was Girls.
Oh yeah. Boom.
Girls.
Girls
in Madera, California was
heck yeah.
Everybody that had a mini truck or a Nissan with 20-inch speakers in the back. If you put Girls, I would hear the bass from blocks away. I didn't even see the car, and I could just hear the Girls.
Yeah.
Like all the hall dances, all the mornings when you play Girls and you hear the strobe light with the fog machine, bro.
Yeah.
Like Egyptian Lover, I just want to let you know, brother, if you're watching this, that song started so many crews in Madera, California and Fresno was because of his music. Literally his music. because it has so much bass, and the poppers, they love that. Yeah. And then the girls loved it too because they was able to sit in the car and feel the bass.
For sure. Big shout to Egyptian Lover from Dino and Mikey Ice. And to this day, we're still buddies, man. He's one of my best buds. He's like close friend. We just recently did an art collaboration together for the 40th anniversary of Egypt. Did all hand-painted caps and jackets that represent, Freak Beat and Egyptian Lover. And you can see all that on my Instagram. It's all there. So, yeah, shout out.
Thank you, Dino. Okay. So, I guess we can kind of like wind this down, close it out. We got over an hour.
Yep.
And 20 minutes. This is a straight, honest question. You seen the 80s, 90s, 2000s. When it comes to everything that you've seen and experienced with the b-boy dance, locking whatever community, what is some advice or something that you can share to the people that's watching that you feel that's missing in today's times? Because I believe, and I've heard it said, and I'm going to agree with it, they took the funk out of hip-hop. Once you take the funk out of anything, it becomes soulless. And I feel like the funk has been stripped out of hip-hop.
Funk is the foundation.
Right.
A big part of the foundation. One thing I will say about, to answer your question in some sort of way, is that we all came into this dance at different times and eras. So it's really hard to force a perspective and experience and an opinion on somebody like myself that was there from the beginning and try to transfer that information and feeling over to somebody that started like in the
2004.
Yeah.
2009.
Because they just wouldn't understand it, nor would they care, because their journey started at that. So in the end, I decided, because I used to try to like spout off about like history and like, yeah, you should know this, and I was there, and it's like, in the end, I realized that all I can do is just be a representation of what my experience was, and just be as authentic and genuine to that, whether it's in front of one person, in front of 5 or 50 or 500, it doesn't matter to me. I could be by myself and be a representation of that shit. I could walk down the street and all that shit is encoded, that whole experience. It's really hard to describe that or to have somebody else feel it if they weren't there. So I just kind of like step away. For those that are interested, yes, get the right information from credible sources, and just realize that there are a lot of contributors that don't speak up. You always see the interviews with the same dudes, the same stories, because they're more outspoken. There's a lot of people kind of laying low that maybe saw it a little different. So maybe history isn't all that, is out there. There's other histories or smaller hoods and like right now, a lot of people from Orange County that went into the dance professionalism and industry, they started claiming that they're from LA. And I'm like, actually, I remember you used to watch me over at this club and shit. Like, that's weird. But you're from LA now? Actually, I remember you living in Orange County since, whatever. And maybe it's for professional reasons or whatever.
Professional reasons.
Yeah. I'm like,
whatever. It looks good.
Yeah, whatever. I never cared about that. I tell people, my Hollywood credits are 0. My street cred is 100. And you can ask anybody locally about what I did, and I'm happy with that. I've been a dad for 30 years, so, I wasn't able to get out into the world as much because, I had a priority of being present for my daughters, my daughter. And that's all that, that I guess you could say, like, that's where my focus was local, because it was easy. So my impact, I'm okay with that, and it's like, it stayed localized, but a lot of the cats that I influenced did end up going around the world, and they come back and they acknowledge, and that always feels great. So in the end, I think the only thing I can say is just to be as authentic and genuine as you can. I could sit here and be like, learn this and say that and learn these terms and learn the culture. you know what, they weren't there. And it's like, it's okay. It's okay. You know?
Right.
You know, if you want to pick up on an interview like this and you want to sit through an hour of, you know, some 50 and over guy talking or some 60 and over guy, cool, you're interested. If you're not interested, fine. You know, I might see it as a misrepresentation of our culture. I might see everything that happened in the industry as a misrepresentation, but that's just little on me. You know, that's just my
right.
my views, my perspectives, my opinions. But it is coming from a real place. You know? So yeah.
To me, I think the real essence of hip hop is very important to keep that intact, because a lot of things that I'm seeing is getting I'll tell you off the camera, but a lot of it's getting washed. A lot of it's getting washed because the people that are talking, they weren't at none of these places that we're talking about. So they're coming from an internet point of view, and I don't knock that, because that's your era.
Right.
I get it, but when you say hip hop, bro, you got to talk about everything. Right. You got to talk about the beatbox. You got to talk about the group, and you got to talk about the female presence. People don't understand, even from my point of view, when I first seen hip hop, it was the sisters wearing the bomber jackets though, with the big earrings and the dookie chains and the lottos, and the pumas with the fat laces. That's what I seen. I didn't see the b-boys. And another thing, we didn't call them b-boys. But when I first seen the dance, it was called getting off. We didn't say none of that. We didn't say breakdancing. We said they're getting off, or are they gonna bust?
Yeah, they're gonna bust.
Those are the two terms.
Bust out.
And I'm being honest about it.
Yeah. Yes to all that. And when I say authenticity, you're bringing out these stories from people like myself. So your platform, you know, is there for the people that want the other stories, the other unheard stories, the street level stories. You know what I'm saying? And you know, everybody else you cover a whole lot of people, but this might be an unpopular opinion because I'm bouncing off of what you just said. But when I think of hip hop, you know, and I've always said this, even though it's a very small percentage of people that might agree with me, even for a lot, yeah, I acknowledge the elements, but for example, I always put dance as like the overall element versus just breaking. You know, yes, it might have been one of the first, but I'm like, for me, it's more like dance, art. So I don't say graffiti, I just say art, the visual aspect, because it gets a little more complicated for me, I guess. I start thinking fashion, and I start thinking the music production. I start thinking there's just too many elements, you know. And if that's too confusing for somebody, okay. But it's like, for me, the umbrella is just dance, you know, because it wasn't just breaking for me. You know, it was all the other styles that came out of our culture too. You know, because when the music was changing, the dance styles was changing. You know, the fashion was changing as well. Yeah, you get your little throwback stuff, but you know, there was just, to me, it's just dance, art, music, the record collectors, the record labels. Are they not an element in hip hop? You know, like, there's just so many different pieces is what I'm trying to say. So I experience it, and I like hearing about everything. So it's not so confined to just that, you know, because, you know, there's just so many arguments around it. I'm like, you know what? We were just dancing. That's it. We were dancing.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
To the music.
Well,
so
every time, from my personal point of view, when I would hear the word hip hop, the first thing that came to my mind was dance. When I was seeing the magazine, they started to talk about rap, I got bored. I'm not a rapper. I'm a dancer. So when they would focus on the rap side, when they had like Rap Mania and all that, on cable dish, they had a thing called Rap Mania at the Apollo. I didn't even watch it because I'm like, where's the dancers at? So to me, hip hop, when I hear the word hip hop, the first thing that comes to my mind is art and dance. To me, rap was always something that it was kind of like, people will walk down the street and like start freestyling about trash can, a cat, jumping over a bush. It wasn't the first thing that I gravitated to, like, first.
Well, it goes back to like how we all experienced hip hop, but in the end, you know, it was all there. It was all included, but I just think it's more broad than those four elements. You know, like I said, it's an unpopular opinion, but it was just broad for me. It was like you said, the girls, the all the other things that were happening all at once. Mm-hmm. You know, and the way I grew up, there was also kind of like that territorial gang aspect of it. Because I'll give you an example. Back in the day, when I was a little more like aggressive and territorial, anybody that I would see that I didn't see that looked familiar that stepped into a club in Orange County, I'd be like, you can't dance unless you battle me first. I'm not gonna let some goofy motherfucker come up into my circle and shit. Like, and I look back now, that was just my attitude back then. But they might come into the place like, what's this guy's problem? I just wanted to come out and break, and he's just all over me. It's like, cause you're not from my fucking hood. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't understand that, man. Like, you know, where do I sign up? You know, for the battle. It's like, no, man. Like, you're gonna experience that if you experience someone like me, because I came from a piece of my experience was that of gang life, you know. And even though I'm not a gangster, I repeat, I've never been a gangster. There's still that territorial thing, like, who the fuck are you stepping into this circle and shit? You know what I'm saying? And if you did anything whack, hip hop will come and punch you in the face. You know what I'm saying? That's the attitude I was carrying throughout the 80s and 90s, you know, off and on. But eventually it all fizzled away because I was like, you know what? Why should he get that like experience of it? He grew up in a different era. Like he doesn't understand. He grew up in a different dance community. Maybe he grew up in the studio community, and he's like encounter someone like me. He's like, what's this guy's problem? You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't understand.
Right. One more other debate that I always hear, and I hear people say it, and to me, I'm sorry though, but it sounds so backwards to me. And I will ask you, what is the first element of hip hop to you?
The energy.
Okay, I like that one.
It's just
the first the energy. Same thing. The first element of hip hop to me is knowledge. I have to have knowledge to even know how to make my leg swipe. Before I know how to do the swipes, I had to understand like how does the leg go over the other one? Where do you get those pins at? I have to have knowledge, and I started looking in the newspaper and see how they were drawing the bear. Sure. I have to have knowledge before I got
there we go. It gets more broad, right?
Right.
The knowledge, the
knowledge.
You know, and you know when I talk about the energy, I think something was just kind of gifted to us.
Right.
That's my perspective. I don't care if you disagree or not. Something was gifted to us from the divine that gave us this super creativity to dance the way we do, to create the music that we created, to create the art that we created. So much to say about that, because when you try to replicate it and teach it and stuff, it's just sometimes they don't come out the same way, because we were just doing it and immersed in it. We were immersed in it. We weren't taught like how to do something step by step. We were immersed in it. We were all up in the thick of it, and it was just the energy, I feel, was the first thing. And then with the dance, it was just moving. So it wasn't even breaking for me. I was like 5 and just moving the funk music. You know what I'm saying? Like, so maybe that wasn't the first element for me. It was when it all came together. Sure, you could kind of like define it a little better, but for me, it always just started with the energy. That's the way I felt it. I felt the energy when I was a kid, when I would hear certain beats coming out of a box that made me move. Sure, it was the music, but it was also the energy of what was going on around me, the people that were around me, the way we were hanging out. You know what I'm saying? We weren't in a studio. We were hanging out, on the steps. Right. And there was an energy around us. Right. There was an energy around us that it was invisible and shit.
I thought too when people were teaching hip hop like in numbers or like the 6-step. To me, I know where that word came from. But when I first started, nobody was ever going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We called it scrambles. We didn't say footwork. On the West Coast, we called it scrambles. We called top rock, up rock. That's why I got the name Little Up Rock.
Right. You know, there is 2 ways of picking up on it.
And I was self-taught.
Right.
Nobody ever pulled me to the side and showed me how to do nothing.
You just saw it, then you just
saw it and just try to mimic it.
So that's what I call is learning through immersion. Meaning that you were immersed in it. And sure, if a new dance came out, you would learn it just by, your crewmates or whatever. They're just picking up on it.
I was watching the girls do it first.
Yeah,
because they had the most rhythm.
Right.
Being honest.
I think that when you start teaching, I have nothing against it, because sure, looking polished and looking clean is important to some people. It actually wasn't as important to me. More so than what was important was the expression of it. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like an MC. Some of my MCs aren't like the most lyrically, technically great. Some of them are kind of sloppy. Some of my favorite dancers you've never even heard of. My boy JoJo and Groove. And I just like their expression. It's kind of like a painting, like art. You know what I'm saying? Abstract expressionism. Portrait. Some people like to see the portrait and everything technically great and polished and shit. Sometimes I like to see the mess. I like to see the real shit.
I like the organic way of hip hop because everything I see, from the beginning was trash, including me. When I first started, my stuff was trash, and I loved it. I didn't look at anything that I wanted to be perfected. I just knew that when I would do my footwork, I know it wasn't up to standard, but I knew one day I was going to get there. I knew I was going to get there.
Let me give you this last example. Like little kids, when you play music and they just start, dancing and like doing their thing, there is no pre-calculated I'm gonna, no. They just go for it, because I used to do little dance things with the kids, like put on music and they start dancing. They're not really so. They're not thinking about what they're doing. They're freestyling in a sense, you know what I'm saying? And you could evolve that and eventually polish it up, but
those are some of the best times of my life when I didn't know what I was doing, because that's where the more mistakes I made, the more friendships I made, because we all laughed.
So
exactly. Oh, you slipped on the turtle. Oh, that's
right.
If I did it perfect, everybody just get quiet and they start feeling like, oh, you're different because you got it and I can't do it.
Right.
The more you messed up, the more that somebody would sit there and say, yo, like I see when you slipped on the water. It became a whole story.
And there's another part of it, the fun aspect of it. Mm-hmm. The hood aspect. There's just so many pieces to it. If you take a hip hopper that experienced hip hop, the all-encompassing experience, and where you grew up, the people around you, your environment. Was it sterile? Was it turbulent? Were you going through some emotional shit? How did you grow up? What was going on in the household? Was dancing really your escape? Did you grow up in a harsh environment? Did you grow up where like you walk out and there are some like danger? There's danger around you. Did that come out in your dance too? You know what I'm saying? That's how it was for me. But it might not be like that for somebody else.
Not today.
Their motive might just be like, hey, I like to break and I don't need to hear all that shit. That's okay. So that's kind of like my last thing to say is that everybody is going to approach it and do it in their own way based on how they found the dance, what their motives are, what their goals are, versus how, we came into it. We came into it when it was just birthing, when it was new, and the energy was fresh. There was no hip hop industry. There wasn't that. Now there is. There was no like big multi-billion-dollar things. I don't have anything against earning good money. There's nothing wrong with that. But the motive now is different. Whereas when we first started, like yourself and myself, the motive was just to feel good and dance, to feel beats, to experience a vibrant new
I feel like
culture.
It gave me purpose.
Yeah.
Every day when I woke up, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. 42 years later, or whatever, if I'm doing the math right. Right.
About 41, 42 years later, we're 2025 talking about 1983, So we're here.
That gave me purpose. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned. Dino Originals. Mikey Ice the Great, the greatest stories that's never been told. I'm going to keep this going all year, which I did in 2024. And the levels is up higher because now it's in 4K. Peace.